Part 38. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 371. Hearing this, the two looked at him with smiles and nodded. The soul demon helped him up and asked, "Can you break this secret formation?" A trace of confidence appeared on Jianyuixin's face. She looked at the Guangmu mountain below, her eyes as bright as stars lit up, and she seemed to see the prototype of the formation, and immediately a vast power of stars came out of her body. "Just leave it to me." As soon as he finished speaking, 7 star beads appeared out of thin air in mid-air. The star beads emitted vast fluorescence and began to merge with each other. The next moment, the 7 star beads connected into a giant dragon. Seeing this scene, Jianyuixin smiled, raised her palm, and with a bang, the dragon roared as if it came to life. He rushed towards Guangmu mountain below. Boom! The mountain shook violently, and a flickering formation appeared in their eyes. Inside the formation was the current Blackwater sect. However, Jianyuixin only broke the formation. He did not have the strength to break the formation. Then he turned around and looked at the two of them with a smile, and said, "Two seniors, the formation has been broken, and the rest is left to you." Hearing this, the soul demon nodded. Then, a faint light emitted from their bodies, and the black mist overflowed. In the blink of an eye, they merged together and became a demonic shadow holding a pair of netherworld swords. Originally they could only deal with the human saint realm, but now together, they can deal with the strong men of the ancient saint realm. Even the peak ones are not afraid. At this time, the top 10 guardians of the second hall and the deputy hall master also came here, looking down at the ready. The nether boat also made a hellish sound at this moment, and the formation was activated. Venerable, whose strength is lower than that of the immortal, will gain the strength to fight in a larger realm. You must know that this time, all the elites in the second hall came, and the one with the lowest strength got the golden immortal. With the blessing of the formation, golden immortal became profound immortal became immortal king, and immortal king became immortal sovereign. The faces of everyone in the second hall showed a hint of relief, as if they were taking a bath. Horrifying murderous intent emanated from everyone, shooting straight into the sky, causing a burst of shattering sounds. Dark clouds suddenly rolled in the sky high in the sky, and the sound of huge thunders continued, just like a catastrophe. As for the Blackwater sect hidden in the formation, everyone also felt it. At this moment, in the Blackwater sect's meeting hall, all the high-level officials appeared here, and those with the lowest strength had reached the immortal sovereign state, but their faces were not good looking at this time. On the top seat, the leader of the Blackwater sect sat there with an ugly expression, his expression full of solemnity and confusion. In fact, he had already noticed the appearance of the nether boat. But he didn't pay much attention. At first, he just thought that the nether boat was just wandering around here, and he never thought that it would break his formation. Moreover, where the Blackwater sect was located, he had also warned everyone strictly that no one could tell anyone, otherwise they would bear the consequences. I gave you a serious warning, but now, why do these people still find the location of my sect? Do you really want the Blackwater sect to perish? Oops, the sect leader fell into a trap. Hearing this, the leader of the Blackwater sect nodded, took a deep breath, calmed down his momentum, and calmly ordered, "You can keep these words to speak to the King of Hell. What you should worry about now is yourself, not us. We have made all preparations today. Later you will feel what despair is. I would like to advise you, be careful to steal the chicken but lose the rice. I value that you have the human temple behind you, so I won't do anything to you. Otherwise, you will not see the sun tomorrow." Afterwards, the leader of the Blackwater sect arranged everything before walking out of the mountain gate in person. With every step he took, the aura on his body became stronger. Unexpectedly, it was still known. Seeing this scene, the demonic figure smiled. This was the result he wanted. He raised his knife to resist, and with a bang, he stepped back sharply. Suminjaya was wearing red clothes, tall, and looked at everyone with a pair of beautiful eyes with a hint of contempt and arrogance. He raised his eyes and looked at the crowd of Wu Yang outside. His eyes were startled. He looked at the demon shadow standing at the head, and narrowed his eyes slightly and said, "Those who are weaker than the celestial immortal mirror will use the teleportation array to escape for now, and come back after this matter is over." Only the great elder stood up at this time, cupped his hands and said, "Immediately activate the sect protecting formation and prepare all disciples who have reached the celestial immortal realm for the next fight." Hearing this, the silent third elder nodded and disappeared from the spot. He couldn't help but feel extremely angry and clenched his fists, but he still tried his best to calm down. "Your Excellency, we haven't seen each other for 7 years, and you so want to start a war with me, the Blackwater sect? Don't you know how you were suppressed and beaten by our major forces last time?" "Sect Master, we don't care who said it for now. The most important thing now is to resist the attack of the second palace, otherwise there will be internal and external troubles." The great elder of the Blackwater sect yelled something bad, and the next moment, a majestic man and an outstanding-looking woman appeared in front of everyone. "Of course, I would also like to advise you. I think you are quite capable. Do you want to join us? I will give you a guardian position. What do you think? After all, the peak strength of the ancient sage is worthy of mentioning. I would like to ask, who told the truth about where our sect is? Ah, who is it? If they don't agree, just say this to them, one will be prosperous and one will suffer. I believe they will understand." Hearing this, the leader of the Blackwater sect turned red instantly, looked at the demonic shadow with murderous intent, and angrily said, "Let the third elder go to the evil demon palace and death palace and tell their leaders what happened to us this time. The two people are Wu Yan and Suminjaya." As soon as the words fell, the leader of the Blackwater sect ignored the advice of others and rushed out instantly. His fingers turned into sharp claws and he aimed at the demonic figure and grabbed it. "Are you insulting me? You are simply seeking death." Immediately, they pretended to be defeated, and were constantly beaten back by the Blackwater sect leader, until the two figures had disappeared from everyone's eyes. The demonic figure looked disdainful, and his momentum was shaken. He looked at the leader of the Blackwater sect with his blood-red eyes and said. The great elder clenched his fists and looked at the scene with solemn eyes, as did everyone. At this moment, the breathtaking jade legs are exposed without reservation, which really makes people think a lot. That guy wasn't here today, but I want to see how you fight with me. He looked at the people below with cold eyes and shouted. Hearing this, everyone swallowed, shuddered, and kept evading their eyes, not daring to reply. In addition to this, there are many powerful ancient saints. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 372. With a bang, scalding flames erupted from Wu Yan's body. He lifted up the flames and struck them fiercely into the formation. Boom! The extremely hot flames are like waterfalls, spreading around the formation. Although the sect protecting formation is tough, it is not indestructible. But within a few breaths, cracks appeared. After all, the burning sky flame body is not just talk. They all have the power to burn the sky, not to mention the formation. Be prepared to meet your death. Wu Yan's aura did not restrain, he was completely released, and his deep voice pronounced everyone's death like a god. In an instant, the sect protecting formation broke apart, and the flames made a sizzling sound and rushed towards everyone. Ah! Everyone screamed, and those with low strength were instantly shattered and turned into ashes. Only the strong men of the ancient saint realm can barely resist. But unfortunately, they couldn't stop Su Minjiao's sneak attack. In 7 years, she has also reached the peak of Ancient Saint from the high level of Ancient Saint, and her strength is not inferior to Wu Yan. The jade sword in Kinkinyu's hand was constantly emitting, and the powerful sword energy was like a long river, covering the whole place and overwhelming everyone. The next moment, countless ghost swords stabbed towards everyone. Aha! 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 Ugh! Boom! 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 There were countless sounds piercing the body, and the strong men of the second palace did not watch on the nether boat. They stepped on the void with their feet and the ground guided by their palms, constantly summoning demons from hell. The next moment, the monster army rushed towards everyone like a tide. In just a few breaths, countless people died tragically among them. No one in the second hall had mercy on the strong men, especially the top 10 guardians and several deputy hall masters, who almost punched each one. No one is their combined enemy. Because the powerful ones were all fighting with Su Minjiao and the Wu clan, they all had too much time to take care of themselves, and they were constantly being attacked by the strong men of the second palace. Boom! A strong ancient sage was knocked to the ground by Wu Yan's punch. Immediately, a fire dragon rushed towards the man, but it turned into bone powder in a moment. Wu Yan looked at the dead man with cold eyes and said 2 words lightly, "Ant." Then, his eyes scanned all the Blackwater sect experts present, and focused on the Blackwater sect's great elder. At this moment, he was fighting with 3 powerful ancient saints from the Wu tribe. He relied on his peak ancient saint strength to fight and retreat without losing any chance. He even found the right opportunity to instantly kill a powerful ancient sage from the Wu clan, which seemed extremely easy. Seeing this scene, Wu Yan's eyes narrowed and he clenched his fists. If this person doesn't die, our Wu clan will suffer too much damage. So let me see if you are my match. As soon as he finished speaking, Wu Yan's figure appeared behind the great elder like lightning. At this unprepared moment, he slashed at his back with a knife. But the great elder of the Blackwater sect was obviously a man with extremely rich combat experience. The moment he felt the cold air behind his back, he quickly formed a shield with his left hand to block this move. Boom! Wu Yan raised his eyebrows, his eyes moved, and he seemed to have found his real opponent. He waved to the remaining Wu clan strongmen. "Leave this person to me, and you go deal with the others." Hearing this, several people looked startled and nodded. Freed up the battlefield. There was no one between them within 100 miles. After all, anyone with a discerning eye could see that a fierce battle was about to break out between them. Your strength is very good and your reactions are quick. You are stronger than the sect leader of your family. With such strength, why are you still loyal to him? Why not replace him? Wu Yan held the red flame knife in his hand, looked at him with raised eyebrows, and asked in a tentative tone. Hearing this, the great elder snorted coldly and said, "Don't try to drive a wedge between me and the sect leader. I am a life and death brother with the previous generation sect leader. How could I be the kind of person who loves my brother's children for my own selfish desires?" Wu Yan was startled and said with a surprised look, "Oh? Is that really the case? It seems that I underestimated the relationship between you. Looks like my plan won't work." Wu Yan shook his head, his tone seemed to be filled with pity. The great elder looked at him coldly, without saying a word. The aura of the ancient sage's peak was billowing out, and in the blink of an eye, several black demonic figures appeared in front of him. "I was very surprised to hear that you single-handedly fought against 7 peak ancient saints that day without being defeated, so let me see if you can block my move today." The next moment, the black demonic shadow turned into black blades one after another, rushing towards Wu Yan. The terrifying black law continued to flow, causing the void to collapse, and the world began to shake. However, this move seemed so weak to Wu Yanzong. Without any facial expression, he just stepped hard with his left foot. With a bang, the terrifying aura instantly knocked back all the black demonic figures. At this time, terrifying flames appeared around him one after another. Terrifying flames spread around, burning brightly. But in an instant, they transformed into several fire dragons. The fire dragons opened their bloody mouths and roared. Then, under the control of Wu Yan, they rushed towards the Great Elder. The terrifying law of fire is spread throughout the body of the fire dragon. The terrifying, tsunami-like flames seem to be able to burn everything in the world. Seeing this situation, the Great Elder's expression froze and he quickly resisted. Boom! Unfortunately, in the hands of Wu Yan, who is invincible at the same level, this move has been magnified several times, so how could he possibly block it? A direct blow knocked the Great Elder back hundreds of steps, and he smashed onto a huge peak, coughing out a mouthful of blood. Such a powerful force. It's obviously just the same realm, but it can exert a more powerful force than this realm. Is it possible that this person has the appearance of becoming an emperor? The Great Elder's face was full of horror, and he looked at the scene in disbelief, not even caring about the serious injuries he suffered. Unfortunately, Wu Yan remained expressionless and calm. He snapped his fingers and saw another blazing fire in the air. Bah, bah, bah. The flames rose out of thin air and turned into a huge dragon. The next moment, the giant dragon swung its tail and rushed straight towards the Great Elder. The strong pressure made him look stunned. He condensed all his magic power into his hands and turned it into an indestructible shield. Boom! The giant dragon hit the shield, causing a tremor, and the heaven and earth began to shake slowly. The turbulent air waves shook the surrounding area for thousands of miles, turning some unlucky people into withered bones in an instant, and the battle inevitably came to a halt at this moment. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 373. On the other side, Su Minjiao had already killed 2 ancient Saint Realm experts, but felt the momentum not far away, and her heart tightened. This move made her feel extremely threatened. The beautiful eyes couldn't help but move slightly and looked up. Finally, he said 4 words lightly. Extremely powerful. The second elder, who was restrained by 5 ancient Saint Realm experts, trembled when he saw this scene. He used all his strength to push back the 5 strong men from the ancient Saint Realm to one side, and then hurried over. But Su Minjiao had already noticed him, so how could she give him a chance? You can't interfere in the fight between the 2 of them. If you want to get past it, defeat me first. Looking at the outstanding-looking woman in front of him, the second elder looked a little angry, clenched his fists, and angrily said, "You little girl, get out of my way. Don't think that you can fight me if you reach the peak of the ancient saint." Hearing this, Su Minjiao didn't speak. She crossed her arms, looked down at him with her beautiful eyes, and said in a disdainful tone, "What if I say no? Is it possible that you can kill me instantly together? Huh, how arrogant. You're looking for death." The second elder cursed angrily, condensed a black fireball in his hand, and instantly appeared in front of Su Minjiao, blasting towards her with overwhelming force. Seeing this scene, Su Minjiao's face showed no trace of emotion. Holding the jade sword in her hand, she easily blocked this attack, then made a gorgeous turn and struck back. Ugh! The terrifying cross-blade hit the second elder's chest, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood, and his momentum began to weaken. The other strong men of the Wu clan also took this opportunity to come here, stationed themselves in triangles, and arranged a set of formations. Boom! The momentum of the 3 people shook, and in the blink of an eye, a giant sword from the sky stabbed straight into the old man's chest. Puff! The huge sword penetrated the second elder's chest, like a nail, nailing him to the ground, making him unable to move at all. Because Suminjaya had already arrived here at this time, pressing him firmly with her momentum. Otherwise, how could only 5 low-level ancient saints stab the giant sword into the chest so easily? The second elder's expression was extremely painful, and his momentum dropped to the extreme. Within a few breaths, he lay there motionless. However, for the sake of safety, Suminjaya still used a set of sword rain, and the sword energy like raindrops pierced the old man's figure. Only then did Suminjaya confirm that the second elder was really dead. The battle on Wu Yan's side was also completed early. After being blasted by the giant dragon, the elder could not stop it at all. In just half a stick of incense, Wu Yan was instantly killed. And the battle situation on the field instantly tilted towards Profound Heaven Sect. Everyone in the second hall has been consuming mana and summoning hell monsters, while everyone in the Blackwater Sect can only look at it fiercely. The tide of hell monsters had spread all over the place, and Han rushed towards the Blackwater Sect people without fear of death. At this time, people from the Evil Demon Palace and Death Palace also came here, and happened to see this scene. The third elder who led the team had tears in his eyes and looked extremely sad. There was nothing he could do. He could only watch helplessly as his disciples fell in front of him one after another. Even so, he still had a backup plan, and the backup plan was the person he brought here this time. The third elder wiped away his tears, turned around, looked at the leaders of the 2 major forces with a pleading look, and said with cupped hands, "2 adults, please save my Blackwater Sect, otherwise our Blackwater Sect will really perish. You 2 adults must also put the overall situation first." Among them, countless monsters were killed. The third elder had a bad premonition in his heart, but he was still unwilling to give in and found a sect disciple to ask, "Is it possible?" After hearing this, the 2 looked at each other and nodded, naturally understanding the importance of it. The section. The sect leader fought with a strong man and left here after a fight. The remaining disciples don't know. Seeing this scene, an immortal venerable level strongman couldn't help but cursed. These monsters were not only powerful, but also very troublesome to deal with. But in an instant, the hell monsters all over the mountains and plains acted as human shields and began to block these people's offensive. Not to mention that the powerful immortal emperor in the Evil Demon Palace is currently recovering from his injuries and cannot take action for the time being. The disciple who was being choked turned red and was speechless, but under the threat of death, he still gritted his teeth and said, "I also know that the Profound Heaven Sect will never give up when they come this time. Once the Blackwater Sect is finished, they will take action against them. Give you one last chance, tell me. My brother, disciple. No, where is the leader of your Blackwater Sect?" However, Profound Heaven Sect was well prepared and would not be caught off guard like before. When the third elder heard this, he also reacted and quickly looked towards the field, but he really didn't find his sect leader. "Okay, you don't need to explain. We heard what you just said. Don't worry, we will help you withstand this crisis." And beside him, there are apex level alchemists one after another who are personally refining elixirs, and restorative elixirs can be said to be continuously being refined. Rather than waiting for death, it would be better to take advantage of the fact that the Blackwater Sect is still here and kill everyone in the Profound Heaven Sect here. When the disciple heard this, he looked a little panicked, and even after speaking for a long time, he didn't finish his sentence. Bang 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 bang. The huge fireball was like a meteor, falling continuously, the ground shook, and holes appeared one after another. He was really afraid that after his sect leader died, the people from these 2 major forces would stop helping his sect. Where did our sect master go? Why is there no sect master in the field? Damn, it's those annoying ugly things again. Bang 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 bang. Seeing this, the third elder felt happy and nodded. Chi Huang and the Lord of the Death Palace did not hesitate anymore and led the powerful men in their own forces to fight with the people of Profound Heaven Sect. He immediately looked at the two confused people on the side, and before he could speak, the Lord of the Death Palace answered first. This made the third elder a little anxious, his eyes instantly turned cold, he pinched the disciple's neck and asked again. A man with the law of fire, the Saint Realm strong man, flies high in the sky, constantly releasing fireballs. Because there are hundreds of immortal king-level experts who have already acted as summoners. Hearing that his sect leader was okay, the third elder finally looked relieved and let go of his neck. However, these have no effect on the people of Profound Heaven section if they are not killed, hell monsters will continue to be summoned. Chi Huang, the master of the evil demon palace, found that in all the battlefields, he did not see the figure of the sect leader in the black water, which made him a little strange. Fortunately, his sect leader did not die. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 374. But naturally some people also thought of killing the summoner of Profound Heaven Sect, but it is not that easy to do it. Because beside the summoner, there are not only alchemists, but also hundreds of powerful guards standing guard there. It can be said to be an integrated attack and defense, killing anyone who comes. Even the strong men of the ancient Saint realm are not afraid, because not far away, the eyes of the strong men of the Wu clan will glance here from time to time. Because they all know that the prerequisite for victory in this war must rely on the monsters summoned by the second palace. And because the powerful men from the Death Palace and the Evil Demon Palace joined in, the pressure on the Blackwater sect was more than doubled. Finally got a chance to rest. Wu Yan, who had finished dealing with the Great Elder, was standing on a mountain peak, looking down at the messy scene below. Seeing that a new powerful person had joined, Wu Yan had no intention of continuing to watch, and appeared on the battlefield with a red flame knife in hand. After constantly looking at everyone, he finally found the master of the Death Palace. With a cold look in his eyes, he wrapped himself in flames and rushed toward him. Wherever he passed, countless strong men were reduced to pieces under the violent impact, and blood flowed on the ground like a river. Anyone who fights here will be stained with hot blood, especially the strong men in the second hall. Because of the strange skills they practice, once they smell the smell of blood, their blood will surge and their eyes will become more fierce and ruthless. The master of the Death Palace seemed to feel the coldness coming from behind, his face condensed, and a dark black flame appeared on his body. He picked up his fist and punched it in the back without hesitation. Boom! Coincidentally, the two collided with each other, each took a step back, and finally fought together again. Boom! 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 Countless collision sounds appeared, and the magnificent moves were released without any reservation. As expected of a strong man with 1 against 7, the battle only lasted a moment, and I was already a little tired. The Lord of the Death Palace looked at Wu Yan across from him and couldn't help but praise him a few times. But Wu Yang didn't talk to him in a nice manner, but mocked him. That's because you are too weak. You don't often fight against the top strong men, and you only belong to your own lair. That's why I only used a few moves, and you couldn't hold on anymore. Hearing these words, the face of the palace master of Death Palace changed instantly and he looked at him angrily. Arrogant, do you really think that you are invincible just because you have defeated 7 against 1? I still don't believe it. You just fought for so long without even a single trace of mana being consumed. Wu Yan only showed him a contemptuous smile. To be honest, from the beginning to now, he had only used less than 30% of his magic power. Fighting against people of the same realm, he only used so much mana, and he was enough to brag about his invincible record. It is even possible to leave his name in history and build a temple to worship him. Because his burning sky flame body is very abnormal, he only needs to use the flames a little to suppress people of the same realm. The master of the Death Palace did not pay attention to Wu Yan's expression, but instead clasped his hands together and merged with the dark black flames. In an instant, a mark appeared on his back. The mark began to break like a mirror, and the next moment, a huge orangutan walked out of it. With every step he takes, the void trembles, and the earth shakes uncontrollably, as if it cannot withstand the power of the giant ape. The giant gorilla slapped its chest heavily with both hands, bared its teeth, and made a sound that resounded throughout the world. Seeing this scene, Su Minjiao's unmoved face finally showed a hint of joy, and she said secretly. Seeing this, Su Minjiao touched her head with her hand, and then jumped on her body. The driver, Vermilion Bird, rushed towards Wu Yan with a jade sword in hand. The strong men in the second hall also avoided him, and no one dared to touch Nanming Liwo. Seeing this, the man's face tightened and he quickly avoided it, but Nanming Liwo kept following him as if he had eyes. Su Minjiao clenched her fists and bit her lower lip tightly. She seemed to have thought of something, and her beautiful eyes lit up. Immediately, Vermilion Bird once again sacrificed his true fire, Nanming Liwo. As soon as this flame appeared, the earth began to tremble violently. Because a fiery red shadow had torn the void and flew towards Su Minjiao. Nanming Liwo took all the power to burn the world and rushed towards the ancient Saint Realm strongman who released his tentacles. In addition to these, there will also be 3 ancient Saint Realm peak powerhouses wandering around her, looking for opportunities to unleash fatal moves on her. Those annoying tentacles made Vermilion Bird a little angry. He chirped, flapped his wings, and released a large fire. Chirp! The fiery red phantom flapped its wings, and the pressure of the huge divine beast filled the whole place, making some people feel headaches and dizziness. The dark clouds were rolling high in the sky, as if they were afraid. But even so, the ancient Saint Realm Peak expert who released the tentacles still refused to give up, leading 3 ancient Saint Peak experts to contain her. Vermilion Bird flew to Su Minjiao's feet, its sharp eyes showed a hint of joy, and touched Su Minjiao's hand with its head. This mythical beast is none other than Vermilion Bird. The next moment, a bird song echoed throughout the world. The ancient Saint Realm's pinnacle expert looked at the flames tracking behind him, cursed secretly, and looked filled with regret. At this time, Su Minjiao's whole body was covered with scars, but these scars could not hide her unparalleled beauty. From time to time, a long tentacle would be triggered and tie her up, giving her the feeling of a fist hitting cotton. It worked. It seems she still likes me. The Lord of Death Palace released blazing flames all over his body, and his huge momentum shook the shattering void sky. The flames all over the sky fell like raindrops. The terrifying flames touched the tentacles, and within a moment, these tentacles were burned to ashes. Because Nanming Liwo would drop small droplets of flames on the crowd from time to time during its flight. Although it was only a small droplet, once it burned, it would be like a sea wave, burning a large group of people in just a few breaths. People! Roar! Not far away, Su Minjiao saw this and wanted to help, but the peak ancient Saint Realm powerhouse in front of her was extremely difficult to deal with. If I had known better, I shouldn't have angered Vermilion Bird, otherwise I wouldn't be in such a mess. Let you see the horror of the death demon ape. I still don't believe that your burning sky flame body is really that strong. Damn it, why does this flame keep following me and chattering endlessly? When everyone present heard this voice, their faces were startled. Just one drop turned an immortal sovereign expert into dust. She wants to stop Qi Huang from unleashing his special move. Qi Huang also saw this scene. To be on the safe side, he tore the void apart and used his famous move, Starlight Break. Many people also suffered. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 375. The other 3 ancient Saint Realm experts already knew the power of the flames. They swallowed and looked at Vermilion Bird in horror. They stopped looking at Vermilion Bird and looked for other opponents. When Su Minjiao, who was sitting on Vermilion Bird's back, saw this scene, she covered her mouth and laughed. Her smile was a little charming, and then she thanked Vermilion Bird softly. "Thank you, Vermilion Bird. I thought you would forget me as a friend, but I didn't expect you actually came when I called." Vermilion Bird heard this and chirped happily a few times, as if to say you're welcome. Chi Huang, who was releasing his ultimate move, also saw the figures of the two heading towards him, his expression slightly condensed and hesitant. Although Vermilion Bird's current strength is not strong, her true flame cannot be resisted by herself. After all, she is one of the four spirits of heaven and earth. The identity of the mythical beast is only secondary. To fight Vermilion Bird, only the immortal emperor can suppress it. Thinking of this, Chi Huan could only stop casting spells, stepped aside helplessly, and looked at the Lord of Death Palace apologetically. The Master of Death Palace did not notice this and looked at Wu Yan with burning eyes. The flames on his body burned fiercely. At this moment, the giant gorilla in front of him rushed toward Wu Yan with flames that swallowed up everything in the world. The terrifying and shocking sound spread throughout the world, turning the nearby peaks within 100 miles into rubble. But without the threat of Chi Huang, Wu Yan had no fear at all. The next moment, the flames all over his body burned, turning into circles of light one after another, with extremely ferocious flames burning on the circles. Then, I saw the circle of light split into hundreds, and one after another terrifying dragons tore out of it. In just a few breaths, hundreds of giant dragons, under Wu Yan's control, rushed straight towards the attacking giant ape. In the blink of an eye, the two collide. Boom! The uncontrollable turbulent air waves completely tore apart the void, revealing the brilliant galaxy. And this harsh sound spread throughout the sky and resounded throughout the sky. Bits and pieces of gravel fell out of the void and hit the ground below. Seeing this, the people who were fighting tightened their expressions and began to stop fighting and quickly evade. Speaking of which, these people are still a little frightened. It is not that their opponents are terrible, but they must always pay attention to whether the battle with top experts will affect them. Seeing that his move was easily blocked, the Master of the Death Palace couldn't help but clenched his fists, feeling a sense of powerlessness in his heart. My most powerful blow was easily blocked by him. Is this person really that strong? Alas! Wu Yan, who was opposite him, still looked at him with contempt, shook the red flame knife in his hand, raised his eyes, and said mockingly. As expected of the Lord of Death Palace, I almost couldn't bear this blow. Fortunately, I unleashed my best move at the critical moment. Otherwise, I might have died here today. Damn it! Hearing this, the Lord of the Death Palace almost spat out a mouthful of old blood, veins appeared on his head, and he looked at him with an angry look. Is this something a person can say? What's the fucking worst trick? The Lord of the Death Palace was ready to kill Wu Yan, but he hated that he was not strong enough to defeat him. Wu Yan seemed to have not seen the scene and continued to talk to himself. If the Master of the Palace doesn't use your strongest moves, then I'm going to be serious. I hope next time, you can stop him. The moment the words fell, Wu Yan's figure had disappeared. This scene also made the Master of the Death Palace instantly vigilant. He quickly gathered his shield, but unfortunately, it was already too late. Boom! A fist shadow as huge as the sky appeared behind him, covering the sky and the sun, and hit his back with a huge force. Boom! The Lord of the Death Palace was hit, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His chest hit the ground with a bang, killing countless hell monsters and immortal sovereign immortal venerable powerful men. Wu Yan held the scarlet flame knife in his hand and stood with a cold face where the Lord of the Death Palace had just stood. He looked down at a 100-meter cave below and smiled coldly. He had already prepared this punch, and what he just said was just to make the Lord of the Death Palace relax his vigilance. Do you really think that Wu Yan will be okay and make fun of him? Of course, Wu Yan did it deliberately to kill the person just now, and he did not harm anyone on his side. It doesn't matter whether the monsters in hell are dead or not, these are just some consumables. Later, Su Minjiao also came here with several strong men from the Wu clan, and once again used formations to trap the master of the Death Palace. However, he didn't mean to kill him, because this person still had some effect on him. Profound Heaven Sect, and it would not be too late to kill him after he was drained. When Qi Huang, who was not far away, saw this scene, he gritted his teeth and did not dare to step forward to directly rescue the Lord of Death Palace. After all, the terrifying flames of Vermilion Bird just now are still vivid in my mind. No, if this continues, not only will we not be able to stop these people's offensive, but our own powerful ones will also be compromised. Qi Huang already had the idea of escape, but his face was a little hesitant. After all, their major forces all prospered and suffered losses. No matter, my ancestor is still here anyway. As long as the ancestor is still here, they won't dare to act rashly. Thinking of this, Qi Huang did not hesitate and called back the strong men of his own power. He took one last look at the chaotic battlefield and left here. The third elder who was fighting happened to glance at this place with a bad look, and his heart tightened, as if he had a premonition of something bad happening. He tried his best to fight off the person in front of him, hurriedly chased after him, grabbed Qi Huang's arm, and asked in a panic. Master Qi Huang Hall, why do you want to take away all the powerful men in your own power? You must know that this battle is far from over. If you leave, then we will really be finished. I also hope that the Lord of the Palace will put the overall situation first and don't lose the big for the small. But what was waiting for him was Qi Huang's cold eyes. That look was as cold as a pool in the abyss, making the third elder feel very strange. Before he could speak, Qi Huang without hesitation tore the third elder's neck and crushed his head. After giving the corpse another cold look, he led everyone out of here without saying a word. Since he is leaving, it means that he will not show any mercy. The three major forces have long since been shattered and cannot live up to their past. Wu Yan, who was not far away, happened to see this scene. He half squinted his eyes, then curled his lips and showed a sarcastic smile. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 376. Looking down at the Palace Master of Death who was trapped by the formation, he said. Have you seen it, Master of the Palace? The Master of the Evil Demon Palace left here without mercy. He even killed his own people without hesitation. It seems that the relationship between you is not very strong. If one party's power loses, he will break it at his word. Hearing this, the Lord of the Death Palace glanced at him, without saying a word, with a gloomy expression, his head lowered, and his fists clenched in his hands. He didn't expect that Qi Huang turned out to be this kind of person. I remember that when their evil demon palace was in trouble, I and the evil ghost sect master went to save him. Otherwise, he would have been dead by then. How could he be as cool as he is now? But then he thought about the presence of his ancestor in the evil demon palace, and he couldn't help but reveal a hint of self-mockery. I couldn't help but think about my grandfather. His grandfather was also an immortal emperor, and he was of the same generation as the ancestor of the evil demon palace, and the two had a close relationship. Therefore, he has a very good relationship with Qi Huang. But even the best relationship began to break down today. At this time, due to the retreat of the evil demon palace, even if the two major forces unite, they are no longer a match for Profound Heaven Sect. Because some more disciples from Profound Heaven Sect came, and they were all formation masters. Under the leadership of Qianyuixin, they laid out ancient formations one after another. They trapped all the people from the two major forces inside and tortured them inhumanely. Countless screams came from it. Ah, 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 ah. Some people even knelt down to beg for mercy and kept kowtowing to the people of Profound Heaven Sect. Spare me, don't let me suffer this kind of torture, I'm willing to work for you, don't torture me. Please, my lords, please spare me. Countless calls for mercy came from inside, but what was waiting for them was not the pity and sympathy of Profound Heaven Sect and others. On the contrary, the torture for them was a little worse. Because these people died without pity, mercy is meaningless. This group of people is even worse than the people in Soul Palace and Shadow Palace. Everyone has hundreds of lives in their hands, including innocent women from good families. Although the second palace is bloodthirsty, they will not do such beastly things. After all, what they desire is strength, not physical desire. In the crowd, a woman with a cold face, slim figure, and beautiful appearance appeared there. Although she was among the crowd, her figure had a hint of loneliness. There was no emotion in her eyes, only a strong murderous intent and hatred, plus some complex expressions that were unpredictable. This person is the woman brought back by the soul demon. Her name is Xink. She did quite well in this fight, and Han Yi had been paying attention to her. Although she did not help much, her courageous spirit of not fearing death and moving forward is worthy of admiration from some people. I really didn't expect that a woman would be so crazy, or even use such cruel methods. Even the Profound Heaven Sect disciples who came to support him couldn't help but admire this woman's spirit when they saw this scene. But he just sighed for a while, and then looked at the people trapped in the two major forces in the formation. Increasing the operation of mana, in just a few breaths, the two major forces finally turned into a pool of blood in the death-like torture. The pungent smell of blood filled the air, making people nauseous. Everyone in the second hall didn't care about it, but some disciples of Profound Heaven Sect obviously couldn't stand it. I started to vomit continuously, mainly because the scene was too cruel, and the internal organs were scattered all over the floor. In addition, they had never seen such a tragic scene, so vomiting was out of the question. The 7 peak masters of Profound Heaven Sect also came here at this time. I happened to see this scene, but my face was not moved at all. My eyes were scanning the surroundings, as if looking for survivors. At this time, there were only a few sporadic Ancient Saint Peak experts fighting desperately in the field, and the rest were almost dead. High in the sky, the only 6 remaining Ancient Saints from the two major forces were fighting there, but their faces were indeed a bit ugly. After all, they were exhausted physically and mentally after fighting for so long. They also had the idea of escape, but they had no chance to leave. Because some hell monsters were already coming towards them, they couldn't escape. As time went by, the 6 of them could no longer hold on and were severely beaten to the ground by their opponents. Lying there covered in blood. Wu Yan and Su Minjiao also came here with the master of the Death Palace. Seeing this scene, bloodthirsty Stark eyes moved. He was the strongest among the 7 peak masters, and he was also the one leading the team this time. There is no doubt that this time he has the greatest power. First use the formation to trap these 7 people, then take the nether boat, and wait until we return to the Profound Heaven Sect to hand it over to the sect leader for his decision. After hearing this, the 2 men nodded, and within a moment many formations and marks were cast on the 7 people. Complex runes kept falling on them, and now no one could escape even if they had the ability to reach the sky. Immediately, several immortal King Realm protectors came here and took the 7 people aboard the nether boat. Where have the Shadow Demon and the Soul Demon gone? Why haven't they been seen? Could it be that something happened to the 2 of them? Lin Tian, who was wearing a blue robe, looked around and found that there were no 2 people around, so he asked with a somewhat puzzled expression. Seeing this, Su Minjiao's beautiful eyes moved, and she truthfully told Lin Tian what happened when the 2 of them disappeared here just now. After a few breaths, Lin Tian nodded. Then he raised his eyes and looked at the vermilion bird flying high in the sky. With a smile, the figure instantly disappeared from the place and appeared on the back of the vermilion bird. Feeling the figure on his back, Vermilion Bird did not resist at all. Instead, his eyes looked at him with a hint of happiness. It is enough to see that the two of them are already very familiar with each other. Lin Tian patted Vermilion Bird on the back and said softly. Vermilion Bird goes to look for the Soul Demon and Shadow Demon. Hearing this, Vermilion Bird chirped, nodded, and disappeared from everyone's eyes with Lin Tian. The remaining 6 peak masters didn't pay much attention, as they seemed to be used to this scene. Among the 7 peak masters, Lei Wuxian, wearing a blue robe and a majestic face, stood up, looked at the crowd, and said in a deep voice. Okay, there shouldn't be many strong men in the Death Palace now. Let's take this opportunity to destroy the Death Palace as well. This way, we will save some worries. After hearing this, everyone nodded without any rebuttal. After cleaning up, they all returned to the nether boat. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 377. During the torture and interrogation by the powerful men in the Soul Palace, the location of the Death Palace was finally revealed. Boom! Immediately, the nether boat tore through the void before his eyes and penetrated, arriving at a place filled with dead silence. This is the Palace of Death. However, now that it is surrounded by a secret formation, it can only be seen that this place is a dead place, and it is unknown that there is a sect here. But now it was up to Qianyuexin, who used 7 star beads to easily break through the formation. The Palace of Death also officially appeared in the eyes of everyone. However, there are not many powerful people in the Death Mansion at this time. Except for a dozen immortal venerable level powerful people, there is only one middle level ancient saint elder sitting here. Everyone on the nether boat looked at each other, and then 2 strong men from the Wu tribe stood up and saw Wu Yandao. Leave the Palace of Death to my Wu clan. Hearing this, everyone nodded and had no intention of fighting. Immediately, 2 strong men from the Wu clan led 10 immortal sovereign realm guardians and landed outside the gate of the Death Mansion mountain without concealment. Boom! Everyone fell, the earth cracked, and air waves rolled. This momentum was naturally noticed by the disciples of the Death Palace. They frowned and looked at the people who came. They were a little confused. Why did these people come in directly even though their sect was protected by a secret formation? But I'm too lazy to think too much, it's just business to stop these people. Immediately, a white-haired old man looked at everyone. Although he knew that the 2 people in front of him were strong, the Lord of the Death Palace gave him confidence. He shouted at everyone. Who are you? Don't you know where my Death Palace is? Be careful, the master of my Death Palace will destroy you later. Hearing this, the 10 guardians showed a hint of disdain, looked at him with contempt, and said. Your palace master has been killed by us a long time ago, but we want to see how you are going to be killed? Just because you are the immortal king? Humph, that's funny. After the words fell, the 10 guardians did not say any more, their expressions instantly turned cold, and a dark sharp blade appeared in their hands, condensing their magic power, and struck the old man. The old man didn't react in time and was hit directly by the blow. The sharp blade carried the old man and hit a wall. Bang! The wall shattered, and the old man died in surprise. That expression seemed to say, how dare you kill me? Seeing this scene, everyone in the Death Mansion looked startled, their eyes revealed a trace of panic, and they quickly fled around. It was a pity that a few people had no interest in these people, but walked outside the main hall of the Death Palace without any concealment. The strong man from the Wu clan in white robes was shocked, and a huge coercion covered the entire place, and nearby buildings were instantly destroyed. Then I saw a terrifying power of law condensed in this person's hand, and he threw it towards the main hall in front of him without hesitation. Boom! The hall was torn apart in an instant, and a black figure escaped from it. He was the ancient sage who is now in the Death Palace. It's just that his expression was obviously bad at this time, even a little ugly, because the blow just now made him go to the King of Hell. Fortunately, he reacted at the critical moment, otherwise he would have died. He couldn't help but wonder, who dared to attack the meeting hall of their Death Palace so boldly? Aren't you afraid of revenge? He didn't hear the loud noise outside just now. Because he was practicing in the hall just now and had closed his senses. The man looked up and found a strong man from the Wu tribe staring at him, his terrifying aura making him feel suffocated. It turned out to be a high-level expert from the ancient saint. But how did you get in? Where is the secret formation of my Death Palace? Sighed. Before he could ask a question, two strong men from the Wu clan dispersed on both sides, condensing the power of law and rushing towards him. Hearing this, Lu Wanbing looked startled, but calmed down and asked calmly. However, Qi Huang's face was not very good at this moment and he was a little hesitant, but he still gritted his teeth and continued speaking. Qi Huang swallowed, his tone hesitant. Seeing that this man was killed so easily, the strong Wu clan man on the left couldn't help but spread his hands and complained. One of the guardians scratched his head. Let's go, it's better if you're not dead. So weak. I really don't understand how he cultivated to the ancient saint realm. I thought it would take a lot of effort to deal with him. Why? Explain the reason. We don't seem to be of any use, do we? The others smiled helplessly when they saw this. You didn't abandon the people of these two major forces just to protect your own power from harm, right? Old ancestor, this matter is actually due to me. That's all, I just feel sorry for my three brothers. I don't want to fight them before I've recovered from my injuries, otherwise my injuries will be aggravated, which will have a huge impact in the future. Do you understand? An old man with white hair and weak breath was sitting here, and in front of the old man stood a man wearing blood-red robes. Lu Wanbing frowned. The strong man from the Wu clan beside him chuckled, patted his shoulder and said. The 10 immortal sovereign experts who were brought here could only stare blankly. It seemed that they had been pretending to be cool from the beginning until now, and nothing happened to them later. My injuries have not fully recovered yet. You must be careful recently whether this profound heaven sect will attack my evil demon palace. At this time, the evil demon palace was in a bottomless cave. Qi Huang looked at Lu Wanbing weakly and nodded. As soon as the words fell, the man was instantly crushed by the terrifying power of the law and turned into pieces of corpses on the ground. Seeing this, Lu Wanbing Shenbing was obviously a little angry, but in the end he didn't say anything. After all, there was no point regretting what had been done. Hearing this, the man nodded and said no more. The two people were Lu Wanbing and Qi Huang. In this way, of the 4 major forces in the realm of life and death, only the evil demon palace survived, and the other 3 major forces no longer existed. After the 10 people returned to the nether boat, they heard a terrifying roar coming from below. The sound was deafening, resounding throughout the sky. Go to the King of Hell with your questions. Hearing this, Qi Huang nodded solemnly, leaned over and cupped his hands. Ancestor, let me tell you bad news. Now, the Death Palace and the Black Water Sect have been destroyed by the Profound Heaven section. Stop complaining. The only one who poses a threat to us is dead. We can destroy the Palace of Death. Ancestor, please rest assured. As long as Qi Huang is here, the evil demon palace will not die, and they will not disturb you, Ancestor, as you recover from your injuries. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 378. Lu Wanbing glanced at him, nodded, closed his eyes, waved to him, and said softly. Back off, I'm tired. Yes. Seeing this, Qi Huang retreated with a respectful expression. After walking out of here, Qi Huang's expression changed from respectful to indifferent, and he ordered several strong men from Saint Realm to patrol the outside world. He also sent several powerful formation mages to set up killing formations one after another. All this is done in order for the Profound Heaven sect to come and attack. However, Qi Huang's doing this is just a redundant move. After all, the Nether Boat has the power to break through everything, and it cannot be stopped except by the immortal Emperor. Meanwhile, on the other side, dark clouds swept across the sky, and lightning and thunder thundered high in the sky. Two figures are facing each other here. The two of them are the leader and demon shadow of the Blackwater sect. They saw rubble and ruins everywhere near them, one mountain after another disappearing, and the earth showed a devastated look. This shows how powerful the two of them were just now. As expected of the master of the Blackwater sect, when I saw him today, he is really powerful. It's just a pity that you didn't defeat me. The demon shadow held the netherworld swords in his hands, looked at the Blackwater sect leader opposite with his blood-red eyes, and praised him a few times. But the last few sentences seemed so sarcastic. How could the leader of the Blackwater sect not understand the meaning? However, his expression remained calm and he did not care about these words. Because during the battle between the two, the demon shadow would provoke and taunt from time to time. Over time, he had become numb and was too lazy to care about what the demon shadow said. However, he was still a little dissatisfied. He is obviously a strong man at the pinnacle of the ancient sage. Why is he fighting back and forth with a strong man at the lower level of the ancient sage, as if he is in the same realm? He could only suppress him, but could not defeat him, which made the leader of the Blackwater sect feel very aggrieved. Damn it, why are the people in Profound Heaven sect so weird? They are like monsters, and they can all jump through levels, and it's so easy. Is it because I have too little experience, or is it because Profound Heaven sect has too many geniuses? The leader of the Blackwater sect couldn't help but complain a few words. When the demonic shadow on the opposite side saw that he didn't reply, he quietly hit him with the power of condensed laws. Aha! The harsh sound brought him back to his senses, his face tightened, and he quickly gathered his magic power and turned it into a shield to block the move. After catching this move, the leader of the Blackwater sect looked a little angry, clenched his fists hard, looked at the demon shadow opposite and angrily said, "You despicable person, if you have the guts, just fight me openly and don't engage in such dark means." Snort. Hearing this, the demonic shadow snorted coldly and did not reply. My own strength is no match for him, so fighting him openly would be an act of seeking death. And how could he do such a stupid thing? The current demon shadow is just stalling for time. When the battle over there is over, the leader of the Blackwater sect will be the turtle in the urn and will undoubtedly die. And the battle became a stalemate, with no one moving, just looking at each other. Until a bird song came from the sky. Chirp. Hearing this voice, Moying's eyes moved, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Finally here. Immediately, his body shook, and the fanatical black fairy energy surrounded the surroundings, making the demonic figure look like a peerless demon. Hearing the chirping of birds and seeing the ferocious aura of the demonic shadow, the leader of the Blackwater sect finally looked ugly. He clenched his fists and cursed angrily. Asshole, this despicable guy actually called someone. Speaking of this, he seemed to have thought of something. No, he can't call someone unless the battle over there is over. Could it be? The leader of the Blackwater sect looked stunned, his pupils trembling slightly. Lost, lost. Only if he loses will he have someone to help him. He couldn't help but clenched his fists, his eyes turned red, and powerful mana completely burst out from his body. All the mana was concentrated on the palm of his hand, and his face immediately turned cold. He clenched his fists and appeared in front of the demon shadow in an instant, aiming at his chest and blasting him. This was a blow with all his strength. If this move hit, the demonic figure would be shattered to pieces. It's a pity that Moying won't give him a chance. Holding the netherworld double sword in his hand, he gritted his teeth and caught the move. However, due to the difference in strength, he still hit a boulder not far away and suffered some minor injuries. And Lin Tian also drove Vermilion Bird here, with a murderous intent flashing in his eyes, and said, "Vermilion Bird, over to you." Hearing this, Vermilion Bird nodded, spread his wings, and flew towards the leader of the Blackwater sect. Chirp! Vermilion Bird chirped. The next moment, a large stream of red flames emerged, and immediately turned into small red snakes one after another and rushed towards him. Then he sacrificed his own true fire again, Nanming Liwo. With both attacks at once, even if the leader of the Blackwater sect had the ability to reach the sky this time, he would never be able to escape. Seeing this scene, the leader of the Blackwater sect tightened his expression. He felt the crisis of death on the Nanming true fire. He also knew that he could not hide, so he sacrificed his life force without hesitation. With a bang, a huge amount of life force appeared in his hand, and in an instant it turned into a sky-swallowing vortex. In the whirlpool is endless darkness, which makes people reach into the netherworld. The leader of the Blackwater sect controlled the sky-swallowing vortex. Under the violent movement, an extremely powerful suction force burst out from the vortex. A lot of gravel and wood were forcibly sucked into it, and even Vermilion Bird's Nanmingli fire had a tendency to dissipate. Seeing this, Vermilion Bird flapped its wings and chirped again. The flames of Nanming Liwo also became huge in an instant, but then dispersed in an instant, turning into giant red pythons one after another. Looking up, there are countless. The giant python transformed from Nanmingli's fire opened its mouth and swung its snake body, rushing straight towards the leader of the Blackwater sect. However, under the strong suction, some giant pythons were still sucked into it, but a very small number of giant pythons broke through the suction and came to the leader of the Blackwater sect. He opened his sharp mouth and shook his arms, legs and feet. Then the neck, chest, and even hair. In the blink of an eye, the giant python turned into a flame without any emotion, and the fierce flames began to burn on his body, bursting out with intense fire. The leader of the Blackwater sect couldn't help but scream with a distorted face. The flames made him feel the pain in his soul. Ah! Without his control, the sky-swallowing vortex gradually dissipated. The remaining giant pythons also took this opportunity to rush to his chest. At this time, the Blackwater sect leader's body was covered with burn scars. The arm was also burned to ashes, revealing the scarlet flesh, and what was visible to the eye was the dryness of the blood. Seems to be cooked. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 379. But it was not over yet. Nanmingli's fire kept burning, but in an instant, the leader of the Blackwater sect could no longer bear the pain and turned into ashes. This is how the battle came to an end. The demonic shadow lying in the boulder also divided into a shadow demon and a soul demon, and came here looking embarrassed. Sure enough, it is still a bit difficult to deal with a veteran peak ancient saint, especially when he is working hard. Lin Tian jumped off Vermilion Bird, looked at the two of them, and asked with concern. How about it? Are you too seriously injured anywhere? Do you need any healing pills? Hearing this, the two men shook their heads one after another and replied. No need, I can still hold on. How was the battle over there? Was it won? The soul demon breathed heavily, looked at Lin Tian and asked. Lin Tian nodded and looked at him with a smile. Of course we have won. The three major forces have now been destroyed, leaving only the evil demon palace. Seeing this, Soul Demon nodded and looked at the ashes at his feet with a pity in his eyes. It's a pity for this body. If the body is still intact, we can use his body to resurrect the soul. Let some souls from my soul palace return to the world. The second hall had been fighting for Qin Xian for so long, and naturally countless people died among them, but their souls were still intact. Stored in a soul-nurturing place. As long as they have a powerful corpse, they can seize the corpse and return to the world, and even gain the powerful strength of the original corpse. Seeing this scene, Lin Tian said nothing and glanced at Vermilion Bird. And Vermilion Bird just happened to avoid looking away, fluffing his bright feathers, as if he didn't hear what the soul demon just said. Lin Tian felt helpless when he saw this, but he didn't want to blame Vermilion Bird. Afterwards, Lin Tian and the others jumped on Vermilion Bird, and under the leadership of Vermilion Bird, they arrived at a towering mountain peak. After waiting here for a while, I heard a roar high in the sky, the void exploded, and a space crack appeared. A strange and ominous ferry boat emerged from it. It is the Netherworld boat. The Nether boat stopped in mid-air, its momentum overwhelming, and then two men in black robes descended from it. The two of them walked up to Soul Demon and Shadow Demon, with a hint of respect on their faces. They leaned over and cupped their hands and said, "The Soul One and the Shadow One meet the two palace masters." Hearing this, the two nodded and flew towards the Nether boat without saying much. And Vermilion Bird also carried Lin Tian to the Nether boat. Half an hour later, the Nether boat passed through the layers of void and arrived above the profound heaven sect. In the sect, the disciples who were practicing heard the sound in the sky, looked over quickly, their eyes were startled, and they exclaimed, "Wow, could this be the Nether boat of the second palace? It's so damn domineering. This shape is so cool. Yes, yes. I heard that this thing was given to them by the sect leader. This is also the first time I have seen it. This trip, it is full of style. That's right, that's right." Several disciples were together, whispering and talking, their faces showing excitement. Qin Xian was wearing the 9 Nether Emperor's robes and sitting on the throne, his expression changing, making it hard to see clearly. Qin Xian just smiled slightly when he saw this, and his eyes saw an old man with a kind face and a floating dust in his hand among all the people. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult and extremely time-consuming to manage such a place with a particularly serious feudal mentality in the name of my profound heaven section. Hearing this, everyone cheered up and listened solemnly. At this moment, 3 of the 4 major forces in the realm of life and death have been eliminated by us, and the remaining one will not move for the time being because it has the seat of an immortal emperor-level powerhouse. I believe that after they return to their residence, many junior sisters and junior brothers will ask them about what happened to them this time. "Kyoshi, are you interested in completing this mission?" So he tried his best to hide the joy on his face and pretended to watch the scene calmly. Especially when he saw so many disciples looking at him, their expressions couldn't help but be a little excited, but they still pretended to be calm. "So now I will give you another task. This person is none other than Su Zi, one of the 8 Peak Masters, the Peak Master of Blood Spirit Peak. Wait until we have the opportunity to eradicate him completely. I believe it is most appropriate to represent Taoism with an appearance like Su's. Naturally, she also gained the sect's priority in choosing a mate. Even some elders could not help but reveal a hint of amazement in their eyes and open their mouths. However, as seniors, they could not make a fool of themselves in front of their disciples. That is to annex the Xianhuang territory. I believe you all know about the Xianhuang territory. This is the place of Buddhism and Taoism. It is also a place with very serious thoughts. Even the human race temple does not want to interfere with it. Many profound heaven sect executives stood on both sides of the hall, with a hint of joy and respect on their faces. At this moment, they were satisfied enough. Qin Xian glanced at him and nodded, but then shook his head. "Then I will lead the Taoist forces to counterattack the Buddhists in his name, so that the Taoists can also be controlled by me. If you want to annex this place, you can't solve it by killing, but by supporting one of the forces and letting them kill each other. Everyone looked a little confused. Afterwards, a large group of people disembarked from the nether boat, each with high spirits, as if they were returning from a victorious battle. But who can replace Taoism? Yes or no? I do want to let this down and out Taoist annex the Xian Huang realm, but I don't want to just let him be annexed by the Taoist family. Instead, I want my profound heaven sect to recommend someone to replace the Taoist. It seems that he saw his left hand holding his sister and his right hand holding his sister. Then he returned to his residence amidst the cheers of all the disciples. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other and nodded. The great elder Lingu stood up and replied respectfully. Sect Master, of course we have heard of it. Does Master Dao Sect want to annex the Xian Huang realm by supporting the down and out Taoists? Thinking about it, they all felt a little excited. When everyone heard this, they lowered their heads and pondered for a while. There was no refutation. On the contrary, they were very supportive. You must have heard about the Taoist family's downfall, right? Seeing everyone's happy appearance, Qin Xian's cold face couldn't help but reveal a smile, but he still looked at everyone majestically and said in a deep voice. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 380. Suze, who was in the crowd, was stunned for a moment when he heard this. Then he came back to his senses, cupped his hands towards Qin Xian, and said. Section. Sect Master, do you want me to go? Qin Xian nodded with a smile. Yes, are you interested? After all, your kind face is indeed very bluffing. Of all people, you are the most suitable to go. I look bluffing? When everyone heard this, they couldn't hold it in any more and chuckled, and the originally solemn hall instantly became lively. Qin Xian didn't care about this, he still looked at Suze with a smile, waiting for his answer. Kyoshi looked a little confused, but still replied solemnly. Since the Lord of the Sect values me so much, I will naturally accept this matter happily and will complete it perfectly. Okay, then I'll leave it to you. Finally, Qin Xian looked at everyone again and asked. Of course, if you are interested, you can come out and give it a try. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other, they might as well forget it. Especially the people in the second hall. His appearance is not good, and his appearance is fierce and majestic. It is impossible to become a representative of Taoism. Sect Master, let's forget about it. I'd rather leave such important matters to Kyoshi. After all, his appearance is indeed deceiving. Elixir Peak Master Xiaoran stood up and answered with a smile. Seeing this, Qin Xian said nothing more. The matter was thus arranged. Just when Qin Xian arranged for Suze to be the representative, he was in a dark cave in the demon realm. Shen Menju, wearing a black robe and exuding murderous aura, appeared here. At this moment, his strength has reached the Immortal King 9th layer, and he is only one step away from reaching the Immortal Sovereign realm. In 7 years, he once again broke through himself and challenged the 3 saint children of demon race. Although he didn't win and was beaten badly, he also gained extremely valuable experience. It was this valuable experience that allowed him to practice like a fish in water, breaking through many realms, and reaching the Immortal King 9th layer in just 7 years. Although it's not great, it's pretty good. With my strength, I might be able to fly to the Immortal Domain and try my luck. I heard that the Soul Palace and the Shadow Palace appeared there. Shen Menju's dark eyes revealed a glimmer of light, and there was a hint of murderous intent in her heart. After all, I still have some unresolved hatred with the second palace. Are you going to fly the Immortal Domain? A woman with a slim figure and watery eyes came here and looked at Shen Menju faintly. Hearing this, Shen Menju's eyes moved, as if he guessed who the visitor was, and nodded. That's right, it's time to settle the old grudges. Hearing this, the woman's beautiful eyes moved, and she sighed. She seemed not to be optimistic about Shenmenju's actions this time, and said softly. But now this force cannot be blocked by you alone. Don't you know that behind these two major forces stands Profound Heaven Sect? During your cultivation, I helped you find out that the name of the sect leader of Profound Heaven Sect is Qin Xian. He is a very mysterious person. Before, my demon race 4 great demon generals went to Profound Heaven Sect, but they were blocked by him alone. Even 3 great demon generals died there for this. If this were to be seen by other members of the demon race, it would probably lead to a rush of looting, because only the immortal emperor could condense this magic orb. Menju, if you go on this trip, I'm afraid there will be many crises. Have you really thought about it? It contains a trace of the powerful Great Dao Law. Once you absorb the pure demonic energy inside, your own strength will not only increase, but you will even be able to realize the power of the Great Dao Law earlier. However, the old man ignored the cost and directly condensed a magic bead, which was enough to show his love for Shenmenju. It is best used during bottleneck moments. Senior brother is not telling you, don't be impatient for revenge. If you can hold your temper, the opportunity will come. Now you have no intention of seeking death. The woman was left alone in the devil's cave. Seeing this, the woman's beautiful eyes dimmed for a while, as if she couldn't bear it, but in the end she didn't say anything and nodded. No, senior brother, you understand my character. Although this place is good, it cannot unleash my greatest potential. I also want to experience life and death crises to transform myself and make myself stronger. I wish you peace. I hope. But there is a price for condensing the magic beads, and the price is that it will consume a bit of your own life force. Sister, don't worry. I won't be so stupid. I just want to test them. If you can retaliate, I will retaliate. If you can't, I will endure it. Besides, I have the strength to protect myself. Shenmenju's pupils trembled, but he calmed down instantly. He raised his eyes to look at the woman, smiled and said, flying in the immortal domain is no better than the demon realm. It is the place with the most human monks, and there are even demon hunters wandering there. Once someone senses the demonic energy on your body, I'm afraid you will undergo horrific torture. After 7 years of tossing and turning, the two of them practiced together and sparred together, and feelings had already emerged. Shenmenju nodded and disappeared. Maybe Shenmenju doesn't have it, but you does. Even very deep, otherwise I wouldn't have said that. There was a young man standing under the main hall, it was Shenmenju. If you want to break through the realm, senior brother can help you. Senior sister, I would like to advise you, be patient, wait for the opportunity with me, demon race, and then find another opportunity to eliminate this force. Yoru whispered, and the beautiful shadow gradually disappeared. Even if I can't fight, I can still run. The woman's name is Yoru. And directly above the main hall, an old man wearing a black robe, covering his whole body, stood there. At this moment, he seemed to be saying something to the old man. After half a stick of incense, the old man looked at him deeply and said, even if the immortal emperor can easily condense the magic beads, he still has to think carefully about it. After all, it costs his own life. The next moment, all the demonic energy in the hall condensed into a magic bead, and there was an extremely ferocious power hidden in the magic bead. What's more, my strength has reached the Immortal King 9th layer, but I feel like I'm stuck at a bottleneck. This bottleneck must go through a kind of hardship before I can break through it. Revenge is only secondary, and breakthrough is what I want. In a quiet and dark hall, the place is extremely dark, like an abyss, with only a few candles lighting up the place. In the end, not even the blood dragon escaped. The strength that Profound Heaven Sect unleashed at that time was immortal sovereign. Now 7 years have passed, perhaps their strength has reached immortal venerable or even saint realm. Okay, but you'd better tell your senior brother. Otherwise, you might not be able to come back. But Shenmenjiao shook her head and said firmly.